S-Snake is weird. S-Snake almost doesn't make any sense in the context she's being presented in. And this isn't really the case for all the Seraphim, three of which are interestingly unique. How are they unique? Well, you see, the Seraphim, by and large, are the canonical representations of how the warlords were first depicted as children. This goes for the majority of the Seraphim. However, there are three that stand out that have some oddities about them, and we're going to go over these three today and arrive back at S-Snake at the end. So, when you look at S-Bear, S-Bear, of course, is a Seraphim clone of Bartholomew Kuma, but what's so interesting about him is that he does not look like Bartholomew Kuma did when he was depicted as a child. He looks like a child version of what Bartholomew Kuma looks like now. He's also a very cheeky reference to the Shiro Kuma that we see in film Z, but that's beside the point. The point is that it makes sense as to why he looks like the modern day Kuma, because Vegapunk has literally created an entire army of clones in the likeness of the modern day Bartholomew Kuma, with some variations in addition to the base model. So with that being said, I could see that his crowning achievement, S-Bear, in being a Seraphim, would probably reflect the modern day Kuma as opposed to what Kuma looked like as a child. But moving on, we have Crocodile. Crocodile has a Seraphim that has been unnamed as of this recording, but most likely they're going to be called S-Croc or S-Crocodile. Now, the interesting thing about S-Crocodile in comparison to how Crocodile the Warlord is depicted as a child is that they look very similar. The difference, however, is that S-Croc or S-Crocodile has a scar across their face, much like the modern day Crocodile. This is very interesting. Now, we don't know if they have a hook like the modern day Crocodile because we don't see a full depiction of their body as of this recording. But what's very interesting is that they were given the scar across their face for some reason to reflect the modern day Crocodile. What this could mean, I am not sure. But what's also quite interesting about S-Crocodile as a concept is that we know Vegapunk has had some trouble in copying the mechanics of Logia Devil Fruit. So S-Croc could be the one Seraphim that doesn't have the original Devil Fruit of the person he was cloned from. This stands out because every other Seraphim who we know of that is cloned from a Devil Fruit user has that same person's Devil Fruit. So this is quite a unique situation that we find S-Crocodile in. Also, based on Crocodile's weird history, we don't even know if S-Crocodile and Crocodile will be the same gender at the end of the story or when all the information about both of them are revealed. So I would keep that in mind. We've done videos about Crocodile not being what he seems. That'll be put up here somewhere. But yeah, very interesting. Now, moving on to the crown jewel of the conversation, S-Snake. S-Snake doesn't really make a lot of sense, and she stands out because all of what I've spoken about now doesn't really apply to her, because when we see Boa Hancock, when she's depicted as a child, she is wearing Kuja garb. She is dressed like a resident of Amazon Lily. S-Snake definitively is not. She is just wearing a white dress, which is quite odd. In addition to that, Boa Hancock is known for wearing snake-shaped earrings. These snake-shaped earrings are most likely heirlooms passed down from her mother, whom may or may not be Shakuyaku, because Shakuyaku in the past also had those same snake-shaped earrings. But also, in fairness, all Empress characters seem to have them, so that seems to just be a rite of passage to don these earrings once you become the Empress, because Gloriosa also wore them in her youth. We have Shakuyaku, who wore them in her youth as Empress, and then we have Tritoma, who's also been depicted wearing them once she became Empress as well. So it seems to be an Empress thing in general. But yes, she is known for wearing these snake-shaped earrings. S Snake has the same snake-shaped earrings, but mind you, Boa Hancock, when she is a child, does not have these earrings. So not only does S Snake have a weird accessory that only the adult Boa Hancock is known for wearing, but if these earrings are a signifier that this woman is or was the Empress of the Kuja, the leader of her people, it now puts S Snake in a very odd spot, and it puts Vegapunk in a very odd spot, because S Snake bearing these earrings would be very culturally insensitive, because she's just wearing them because Boa Hancock wears them. They carry no significance, no weight, if this is indeed the case, and these pieces of jewelry are a signifier of the Empress of Amazon Lily. But to continue, she also isn't wearing the same thing that the child Boa Hancock wore. So that, in a way, more so than any other Seraphim, makes her stand out as her own character with her own design. And I find that fascinating because it doesn't really apply to any other Seraphim that we know of. With that being said, too, another interesting thing is that even though she, like Boa Hancock, is the user of the Love fruit, the mechanics do change just because S Snake is an 8-year-old girl. The trigger for the ability is not the lust of the target. The trigger for the ability is how affectionate or enamored the target is with S Snake's cuteness. So even the effect of the ability has changed slightly. This does not apply to any other Seraphim, even those who were clones of people who did not have devil fruits. All the devil fruits of the Seraphim that we've seen work in the typical way that we've seen them first presented by other characters, like Senor Pink or Das Bones, etc., etc. So for her to have totally different contextualization to her abilities now, just based on her age, is unique. Now, with all that being said, there's been a lot of talk about Boa Hancock possibly joining Cross Guild in the future. I don't think that's the case. Now, mind you, I don't know how big Cross Guild is going to get. It could get much larger than we think because it's being made up of a bunch of characters that we know already. So there's not a lot of work that needs to be done to develop characters being added into the organization. You just need to clean up some story beats about them. But keeping that in mind, what if S Snake falls in the hands of Cross Guild? Therefore, if you wanted a Boa Hancock stand-in or a Kuja pirate stand-in, making Cross Guild more like, say, the Rocks Pirates, I think S Snake would be the right way to go, because Boa Hancock herself seems too loyal to Luffy to betray Luffy. Whereas S Snake, even though she too has a crush on Luffy, she isn't really tied to the culture of the island, nor is she tied to any other responsibilities. So even though she too likes Luffy, she is a free agent and can be made more of a free agent if she just fell into the hands of Cross Guild. So I could see her being a part of Cross Guild possibly in the future. With that being said, give me your thoughts and tell your friends about Polypede Works.